As of yesterday, I'm halfway through my 126-day juice fast, so today is day 64. I have lost 54 pounds. I finally got to weigh in yesterday after my trip. I lost 54 pounds the first 8 weeks. I guess it was 9 weeks. And so even though I didn't hit that 60-pound mark, I'm still really happy to be down 54 pounds. It's an incredible difference from just the 5th of July. So no complaints. And I'm sure that 60 is right around the corner. I will be adding now for the last 2 months of the juice fasting. I will be adding exercise, rigorous exercise into my plan. Taking off what I've already taken off has definitely made exercise easier, and I was able to start Sunday by doing a 3 mile walk with my sister, two of my sisters actually, and my daughter, and a good friend. And it was a really great start to the week. So that was about 45 minutes worth. And my goal that I will be meeting on a weekly basis right now for the next 2 weeks is 300 minutes a week. After I've done the 300 minutes a week, 2 weeks in a row, I'm going to up it to 360, basically add an hour a week until I get up to take it from 5 hours, which is what I'm starting at, to 10 hours a week of exercise. I've read a couple of experts' journals on anybody who is formerly obese and what it takes to stay in shape once you reach goal. And it seems like the general consensus is between 1 to 2 hours, 5 or 6 days a week of exercise in order to not gain that back. And that needs to be maintained for a minimum of a year after you have reached your goal weight. So I figure I should start now. And then by next summer, when I'm all tiny, I will already be in the habit of exercising 10 hours a week, so it won't be a problem. I would like to thank everybody who has emailed or sent me a message on YouTube or Facebook. It's made a really big difference for me being able to stay on track, not only while I was on my vacation, but some things that I'm about to share that made the last part of the vacation extraordinarily stressful. And if it hadn't been for the fact that I knew I was being held accountable by the people who have commented and sent me messages, I don't know that I could have stayed true because it was extraordinary circumstances. There's a couple things though that I've learned that I wanted to mention before going into what happened last week, and simply because there's several of you who've said that you wanted to or are juice fasting now with me, and I want to make sure that everybody is doing their juice fresh, preferably at every meal, if not every day. I have noticed a big difference in if I just say, if I juice in the morning like I did on the trip, and then that night when I'm drinking the juice that I juiced that morning, there's not only a difference in flavor, I think there's a difference in nutritional content. I'm sure somebody can let me know if I'm accurate about that or not, but it just tastes. I don't feel as satisfied when I'm drinking old juice. When I drink juice that's just come out of the juicer and just moments ago was this piece of fruit or vegetable, it's got incredible taste and depth of flavor. And I would say after a couple hours, you start to lose that. And I know some of the things that happened to me last week meant that I was drinking juice that was a day or two old, and man, that was tough and not satisfying, and was pretty hard to stay on track with that, even though I did it. So please juice fresh every meal if you can. I know it's a super hassle to clean up that juicer, but it's worth it. Your body needs it. It really only takes 5 minutes. It takes a lot less time to clean up a juicer than it does to clean up after cooking a meal, a standard American diet meal. Um, so keep eating throughout the day too, even if it's just a little bit of juice. I've talked before about how my appetite's gone way down the longer I've stayed into this. But I think it's really important, maybe, at least for me, I found that I need to, instead of having a huge, maybe mason jar of juice in the morning, just have 12 or 16 ounces, and then have another small amount mid morning and then another little bit at lunchtime. And I do definitely notice that I feel better and have more energy if I continue to juice throughout the day, even if I don't feel hungry. I think your body needs the nutrition, but I'm no expert. This is just what I'm dealing with. So, challenges of last week. My last post, I think, was the day after we had come back from Las Vegas. And so that would have been Saturday or Sunday, about 10 days ago, 9 days ago. Monday, our group split off, and my husband and my stepson and myself were headed over to California to go up the West Coast, and the other group just went straight north and then home to Washington State. So our first day, we traveled to a town called Mammoth Lakes, not far outside of Yosemite, and it was a beautiful day and a beautiful ride, and didn't think the day could be any better. The next day, we went into. I actually made a video that day, and the sound was off from the picture, so I had to trash it. But it was a very upbeat, cheerful one. But the next day, we went through Yosemite, which was incredible, breathtaking. I can't even describe how beautiful it was and how much it made me appreciate creation. But just outside Yosemite, I was turning in to get gas at a service station and looked in my rearview mirror and saw Hugh and Jesse's bike slip out from under Hugh and saw it land on the road. Now, the bike didn't slide down the street or anything like that. It actually fell so softly, for want of a better word, that I thought that he had just lost balance or something, and I waited a minute before I realized he wasn't getting up. And when I finally went over there thinking maybe the wind had gotten knocked out of him, I realized he was actually really hurt. And as it turned out, he had 5 completely broken ribs and some others with cracks in them. Jesse is totally fine. He hopped off the back, and I guess he had a scratched finger, and that was it. But so we're there outside of Yosemite waiting for an ambulance to come. It took a little over an hour for the ambulance to get there. There was a first responder on scene, and there was a nurse who'd been behind us while we were on the bikes. And so all of those people were extremely helpful with keeping Hugh as comfortable as possible, and helping us get the traffic controlled and everything while we dealt with this, because it was in the middle of a fairly busy highway. Took him by ambulance to the hospital, and I had to follow down on my bike by myself. I put Jesse in the ambulance with him. After having seen this very experienced motorcycle rider slip on sand during a turn, I had to travel down a road called Old Priest Grade that travels down to a little town called Groveland. And this was the worst road I've ever ridden on. Not that it was in bad condition, but it was 6 miles and a great loss in elevation, so a lot of switchbacks. And having just seen them slip, I was really scared all the way down. I kept thinking my bike was going to slip out from under me. And, I logically knew that I could go a lot quicker. I was sticking to the posted speed limits and the limits on the turns. And because of that, I had a long line of cars behind me and had to pull out at one of the turnouts and let them go past and just kind of talk myself through that, if these cars can make these corners, I certainly could. But having just seen what had happened, it wasn't all logic that was at play in my head. Got to the hospital and spent several hours there finding out exactly what was wrong and how serious it was. They had to put a chest tube in, my husband, and the surgeon was called in. So we were at the hospital several hours, and by the time we knew he was going to be admitted for the night, and he realized he wasn't going to be riding away the next day, we got a hotel for Jesse and myself. And then once he was settled in for the night and the surgery was done, I headed to the grocery store to get Jesse some food. And that's where my old food cravings just went wild. And I think it's probably because of the stress. I think I've mentioned before that I didn't think I was an emotional eater, but I wanted food, and I kept picking up things that I shouldn't have and talking myself out of them. And going into the deli and looking at sandwiches and picking up cold fried chicken that was in the cold case. Looking at the salads even, looking at I can't even remember, the bakery, the fresh bread, and walking through there. And I was torturing myself walking through there thinking I wanted to eat something. And I finally got myself past that, or so I thought I did. Got the food that Jesse had asked for. And then I was walking by, of all things, the condiment aisle and thought, well, hey, I bet Jesse would like some pickles. And it was actually me who would like some pickles, even though Jesse really likes them. But I went down and was thinking about getting him some pickles, and I actually picked up the jar, and then I started thinking I could probably have a pickle because there's hardly any calories, and I was actually having really weird cravings. Like I was thinking the pickle juice sounded really good, that I could drink the pickle juice and then I wouldn't have actually eaten anything. I don't know where all these ideas came from. But then my eyes drifted up on the shelf to the olives, and I like olives anyway. But there were all these different kinds of stuffed olives. And so I started thinking, well, I could just get Jesse the pickles and I could get myself a jar of olives. And I actually picked up a jar, not necessarily with the intent that I was going to eat it, but picked it up and looked at it and thought about it. And it was stuffed with garlic. And then I realized that I started thinking, well, I wonder if they have any that are stuffed with blue cheese, because that sounds really good. And as soon as that thought actually processed itself and went through my head, I knew I wasn't going to eat anything. Put the jar back on the shelf and left. We were in that hotel for just 3 days, and he was able to leave the hospital on Thursday night, actually. So Friday morning we headed back up towards Seattle. But while I was going back and forth between the hospital and the hotel, my bike, I was just drinking leftover juice that I'd had from our trip, and I wasn't really keeping myself nutritionally where I needed to be. And food cravings were bad. I was hungry. I was cranky. And I know that it's just because I didn't do what I know is right, which is to juice regularly, take that 5 minutes to clean the juicer, use the fresh produce, all those things that I know better about. And there's just no shortcuts about doing this right. You have to stick to the plan. You can't cut corners and expect that you're going to have the same results. The day after the accident, though, I had to ride up to back up to the scene to actually get all of the luggage that had been on Hugh's bike put onto my bike and brought down. That would include the clothes for Hugh and for Jesse, camera equipment, everything that had been being carried on the other bike. And at that point, still wasn't sure how long Hugh was going to be in the hospital. So I had to go back up that scary road. And while I was going through the little town of Groveland, there was a pizza parlor. I think it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, so they must have been cooking lunch. And I seriously had the thought of I could stop and eat an entire pizza and nobody would ever have to know, except me. I mean, I would know, but I wanted to really bad, and actually thought, well, maybe I'll get it on my way back through town, and just kept going. And then I thought about, as I went up the rest of the hill, I started thinking about, being honest with myself about what I was doing and staying true to this fast, because I haven't stayed true to anything for so long, if ever, regarding my health. And so it became an integrity issue between me, myself, and I, as well as knowing I could never get on here and say that I had been juice fasting when in fact I had been eating pizza. So all of this really sounded down into my mind and heart, the fact that I'm not over my food issues yet, and I do still have a desire to use food to manage whatever emotion I'm dealing with, whether it's being happy and enjoying myself with friends and family, or whether it's being stressed and upset. And I think I've kind of conquered the family end of it, but the being upset is going to take a little bit longer. So the last thing I was going to do on this video, if I can make it work, even though I don't want to, is give you an idea of what a full body shot looks like. I'm going to have to turn the camera a little bit. But I'm hoping, for comparison's sake, in another 60 days, there's going to be a huge difference between this video and what I look like now, and what I look like in another 60 days, and hopefully, 40 pounds more. I don't think that's shooting for too much. So I will give that a go. And as much as I don't necessarily like watching my face in these videos, I really know I don't like seeing what the rest of me looks like. So gotta do it though. All right, here we go. The window's kind of cutting the light out a little bit. I'm in the bathroom that's in the middle of a remodel. There, that gives you a good idea. Oh yeah, my least favorite shot. There you go. Okay. So that is it for now. I'll be able, now that I'm back home, to be doing videos twice a week like I plan to, and then updating the blog. Thank you for watching this all the way through, if you did, and again, thank you for all your comments and emails. I'm going to try to get back to everybody in the next few days. So if you are juice fasting, keep going. I've got a very important person to me, actually, my oldest son, just moved back home, and he has committed to a 60-day juice fast as well, and he's going to be posting his own experience and his reason that he's decided to do this. My niece has committed to a 10-day fast at a minimum starting today, and a couple of my other kids and even my husband are doing juice fasting. So tonight I only have to cook for one person, one holdout who probably doesn't even need to juice fast. He's a pretty fit little guy, but that would be Jesse, and he's the only one eating regular food still. So I'll let you know how that goes. And again, thanks for watching.